Thank you, everyone, for being patient as we set up. I hope you enjoyed the music. This is Kevin. I messed up his name earlier really badly. Kevin Giguere.
Yes.
There you go. And he's
you.
going to be talking about self-made, self-produced, and self-financed business lessons from a 4-year journey into madness. He's the developer of Arlight Core. You can find him on at dragon underscore slumber on Twitter, and of course arlightcore.com. Take it away, Kevin.
Thank you very much. So, hi everyone. Like he said, my name is Kevin, and on Arlight Core is the first game that I made, and I was the programmer, producer. I did a lot of work on it. Basically, I filled in all of the roles which weren't making the art and the music. And when I started 4 years ago working on this, I did a lot of research about what, I guess, I was trying to do the best job possible. And so there are a lot of resources about how to approach development and design and all of that stuff. But I didn't find a lot of resources about business aspects. So that's what I want to talk about today, because I felt that it was a kind of a lacking element in the field. I guess game developers tend to be more oriented towards the game, which is very understandable. But knowing a bit of business and knowing what you're getting to can really help with a lot of hassle. So without further ado, let's see if this works. Please work. All right. So yeah, like I said, this is mainly for, I use the term mid-range indie budget. So in my case, as we will see a bit later on, that was about $50,000. So it's not mid-range as far as a game goes, but rather as what a person contributes. Because that was $50,000 of my own money, and it's kind of like that type of perspective, which isn't really addressed anymore, because people often crowdsource or make very small games. So it's 4 years of doing business for Arlight Core. It's the perspective of me. It's my perspective, and I didn't have any partners. I didn't have any, any guides. I didn't have a lot of resources. So this is kind of like the stuff that I discovered along the way. And I will be talking about all of the great decisions that I made and all of the terrible decisions that I made. And believe me, the highs might be high, but the lows are also quite low. So, the man behind the game, that is me. I am Kevin Giguere. I am currently 33 years old. I was 29 when I started the project. I have a college degree, so I don't have any advanced degrees in anything. I'm not a trained businessman. I'm not a lawyer, especially. But also, I'm not I didn't work for a big company before starting on Arlight Core. I didn't work for Steam. I didn't work for Microsoft. Any of that, like a lot of big indies tend to do. Arlight Core is my first real gaming project. So before that, I did work on small project, which took a few days to make. But this is the first time I've done something that took years. And this is also my first panel. So I have started streaming about a month and a half ago. But otherwise, I'm not very used to the whole panel thing. So please be indulgent. And of course, if you have any questions, I have the screen on the side. Please feel free to ask your questions. I am more than happy to answer any queries you might have. So Arlight Core, I started in May 2012. It's a console PC JRPG. Like I said, I put in $50,000 of my own money. This was all from me. It all came from jobs and stuff like that. Basically, money I saved up over the years. Although I am the main guy on the project, I did hire between 20 and 25 people to work on this. So quite a few people, and of course, the more people you hire, the more people you have to manage. You have to do contract work. You have to make sure they do the job, because This is still my project. They are really contractors on this. So yeah, that was my first time hiring people and figuring things out, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this panel, to explain what I had to go through. So this is kind of the overview of the things you have to do when you're a single person on a project. Program, design, scripting. It's a JRPG, so there's a lot of scripting. It's very hard, not hard coded, but just a lot of events in general. Writing, and eventually I'll be translating the game in French. I made 2 websites for the game, one for my company, one for the game, and then I remade OurLightCore.com about a year ago. I made 1 trailer, and I hired someone to do the second one. The second trailer is far better, so that's the one I show. I produced over 20 contractors, not at once, but at once I sometimes did this, like 6 people at once. I had to edit assets in Photoshop. I did the marketing, the financing, and it's not written there, but I also have a full-time job. So I did this all while working a 40-hour job as well. So really all of my work, all of my time has been put into Arrowlight Core. So when you're managing so many things, that's when all of the business things you have to learn and need to address yourself become kind of an issue. They become a bit of a burden, I guess. And yeah, that's kind of what I discovered along the way. Like I wrote, it's the price of self-financing. I have a full-time job. I don't have a car, never had one. I don't drink, and I'm single. I don't have kids, so that's kind of how I managed to finance this. I don't own a house either, and I spent basically years of my life savings into this project. So that's kind of the price to not use Kickstarter and other features like that. No early access either. So back in 2012, I started the project, and I started working on the engine. And back then, I was working alone, so there wasn't really any overhead, any management rather.
All right, everything seems to be back. Continue on. Sorry about the delay.
Excellent. So, as Garrett Polk was asking, and as I was answering, yeah, I use DeviantArt a lot for my needs. A great source of, I don't know if it came through before, but great source of illustrators. It's a bit tougher for animation. There are some animators on DeviantArt, but it's a little bit more difficult. Forums, TigSource is a great resource to post ads. A lot of great people on there, great professionals, which I use a lot. Pixel Joint, another great place specifically for me because I need pixel art, obviously. For 3D projects, it would be a bit different. Belong to a community. So I belong to a Slack website, which I'll post a link in the channel actually. So it's the Indie Game Devs Slack, and it's a great resource as well to meet other devs, and just by knowing other people, they can sometimes refer you to the right devs. It's all about network. A lot of it is networking. Twitter, all of those places. When you need someone, just as many places as you can post it, that is probably the best thing that you can do. And have a good ad. In my case, I try to be fairly detailed as to what I need. The sad reality is that a lot of people don't read the ad at all. They just see it and they will post, and it doesn't matter. I've had people who apply for not the job, or who couldn't do the job remotely, didn't know what the job entailed, and that sucks. But for the other people, for the people who are great artists and great professionals, because it's not about great art. It's not only about great art. It's also a good professional ethic. a good ad, they'll look through it, they'll know if it's right for them, and when they contact you, they will have the right types of information that you require. They will know the project, and yeah, I think it makes a lot of like it sorts out some of the people to make sure that you get the right people for the right job, basically. 2D animators, difficult to find. Sound effects, surprisingly, I think it's one of the most surprising aspects, which are expensive. You can find a sound effects bank for fairly easily, and Reddit has some links for like 1 million sound effects in a folder, and that's great. But if you're looking for something custom, and again, it's very specific to my project, very retro styled, it was very difficult to find a good sound effects composer, basically. Websites. So that's another aspect. The current Arrowlight Core website is one that I made, and I made it 3 months after hiring a person to make a website. And the problem is that there is not a lot of diversity right now. Everyone is kind of making is using templates. Everyone makes the same kind of professional website that the style with the things that appear, and it's very blocky, and there are 3 panels with 3 things, and it's not creative. It's not adapted for a video game, and there are very few resources for, at least at a good price, to make websites for a video game. So I had to do it myself. So yeah, website skills are really useful to have, just to be able to do something like that. Overall, it took me less time to make it myself than I spent managing the other person. And marketing, of course, trying to find the right resource for marketing. I hired someone to manage my Twitter account, and it did get me some people, but I don't feel like the word went out as well as I wanted it to. It's a war of marketing is a war of attrition. You just have to contact a lot of journalists. You have to put your name out there. If you look for me and for Arrowlight Core, you will find podcasts I did. You will find websites which did previews. There are a lot of small places, and you can really get in touch with a lot of people, a lot of passionate people for video game journalism. Getting into the higher echelons like Polygon, GameSpot, Kotaku is kind of difficult for smaller projects, but I guess you just gotta, it's a war. Again, it's a war of attrition. You just spread your word as much as you can, and in the end, that's kind of how you win out, I think. It's just a matter of putting a lot of energy and to get those kinds of rewards. So you have people applying. Ask questions. My God, it's important to really get to know the other person, understand if you're going to work with them properly, understand the type of worker that person is, if they will release assets regularly, or if they have a job which makes it difficult to work for you, understand their deadlines. So yeah, ask as many questions as you need. Make sure that the person, even if they're great artists, that doesn't mean that's the right person for your project, because we all have specific needs. It might be deadlines. It might be a lot of things. So a lot of limitations. So really get to know them. A lot of people are super enthusiastic. They love games, and beware of those people, because I find that people who come at you and say, "Oh, I love blah blah blah. It's awesome. Your game is awesome. I want to work with you." Those are the kinds of people who often quit after a few days. And so that's why, again, ask questions, get to know their preceding projects. That can be really help. Samples of work for your project. So in my case, a lot of people offered samples which didn't look like my game, and I would always ask for a sample representative of my game. I would give a description for something that I needed in my game, and I would say, okay, I'll try you out with this thing. And the way I did it is if it doesn't work out, you keep the asset and it's yours. If it does work out, I will buy it from you, and I will hire that person, obviously. So that's kind of how I approach samples. I did a few paid samples, but I was never satisfied. I often ended up with kind of poor work because of it. So I don't pay for samples anymore, unless it's approved, in which case, of course, I pay for them. Don't settle if the offer isn't right. Sometimes you only get one person who applies, and it's not the right person, and you feel trapped. When that happens, well, don't hire that person. I'm sorry. You're going to be disappointed in 2 weeks' time, and you'll be back to square one. Just put out another ad, let some time flow before getting back into it. And it sucks. It means that your project is going to be delayed, but it's better to find the right person than to settle for someone less, and then you're not satisfied, and years down the line you might have to replace some work that they did. I know I did. I replaced quite a bit of work. And of course, a little word of encouragement, just don't get discouraged. There is someone out there for your project. Sometimes it's hard to find them. You have to have the right schedule. You have to match up with their schedule. Maybe they're just there during the summer, for instance. Yeah, just keep at it, and eventually you will find the right person for your project, as long as you're reasonably professional in your approach. A note for artists: give a proper presentation. You know how you should start your email? Hi, my name is X. Hi, my name is Kevin Giguere. You wouldn't believe how many people don't name themselves, don't give any descriptions of themselves, don't, like, easily 10 to 15% of the emails that I receive, people just don't give a name, they don't give any kind of description, they don't care, and immediately that's a red flag. You will be removed. I don't care about you, because if you don't care to give a proper first presentation, there's no reason for me to believe that you will give your all on my game, so I don't need you. And also, you are competing against your peers, and that kind of sucks. I know. I know artists who just, they don't want to compete. Like, I ask the artists for what they're asking. Their asking price for a given asset, and I'm not the negotiating type. I usually go with what the artist is asking. But it also gives me a baseline for a lot of artists to figure out. I'm sorry, the webcam is shaking. To figure out who is expensive, who is within your budget. A lot of artists say, "Oh, well, this price, but I'm willing to negotiate," and that's fine. But at least there's a base price, and yeah, you're competing against your peers. If it's between two people who have reasonably the same style and the same approach, and one is less expensive, well, I'm going to go with the less expensive. It makes business sense, and I'm not, like, this is a costly project as it is. I can't afford to pay extravagant prices. So, yeah, just a note for artists. It sucks. You're competing. That's just the world we live in. And as game makers, we compete all the time, so it's just a reality of life. So let's draw a contract. Don't be afraid of contract. When it comes to business, no one is your friend. And obviously that's not how I deal with people in real life. It's not how I deal with people, with the people working for me. I have a good rapport with them. We're reasonably friends. If there's a delay, I'm really understanding. But at the bottom line is, you're making a game. This is a business. You need a contract, and you need to be protected if issues occur. And so, yeah, don't be afraid. It's not personal. So just make sure that you and the artist are on the same page, as it were, and that's what a contract does. It establishes expectations, so you really list out everything you expect from them, the work you expect them to do, the pay, when you're going to pay them, when they're going to deliver the work, the ownership of the work. So that's another point, a really important point that I'll touch on a bit later on. But yeah, ownership of the work is really important. The relationship between you and the contractor. They're contractors, they're not employees. That is very important to say, because if they are employees of you, then you have so much things to manage as well, and that's the kind of thing that you don't want to have to manage. So please specify it in the contract. And yeah, of course, you write a contract never hoping to use it. They're all guidelines, and usually, most cases, you won't use it. But it does not prevent a lawsuit. A contract, anyone can sue for any reason. So a contract helps you win a lawsuit, but does not protect you from a lawsuit. So that's just another one of those realities that you have to deal with as a developer. And in my case, I never was sued for anything. However, as we will discover, I did have to take the law in some instances. Well, I would say that don't treat contractors like employees. You can have friends amongst your employees. Yeah, it's business, of course it's business, and you need to make sure that they do the job, but you can be nice about it and understanding and all of that. Like, as long as it doesn't deter from the work, everything else is pretty fair game for me. I bought this. Okay, so this is super important when you're contracting, especially when you're contracting someone. You need to specify that the work that they do, you own. That includes the source file, the PSD files. That includes obviously the final work. And make sure you own the layered PSD files, the unflattened sources. Because otherwise they might own it, because by law contractors own the process, and that could be counted as the process. I've had issues with this, so make sure that you include that in the contract. I've had situations where artists didn't want to give me the right to the images. They just wanted to give me an exclusive license. And what that means is I don't own the rights. What is my timer now? Okay, pretty good. I don't own the rights, but I can use it fair game in anything I want for this specific game. However, if I wanted to use in another game or in other circumstances, it might be difficult. So that's the issue with licensing. And yeah, the music industry is pretty tough. It's tougher to own the rights in the music you have produced for your game. My composer is the second one I have, and in all instances, everyone I contacted, which was serious, obviously, they all only offered licensing deals. It is possible to own, of course, but then you have to pay extra, and then fees just add up, and it really makes it difficult to warrant it. So what that means is, if in the case of music, in my specific case, so I can use the music for marketing reasons. I can use it for Our Light Core, but I cannot sell a soundtrack, for instance. And my composer, Hugh Holton, will be selling the soundtrack for him. And on a side note, Our Light Core has an amazing soundtrack, so I highly recommend that you check it out. Yeah, registering a copyright. I do not own any copyrights for Our Light Core. And the reason why is because copyrights are not necessary. When you create something, you own it. That is your creation. The reason why you register a copyright is because you want to have proof that you own that thing. And it's all about legal a legal situation. When you want to, if someone is stealing your IP, you have to sue them, and if there's a lawsuit, you have to demonstrate that you own that IP, that you own the logos, and you own the characters, the illustrations, and that's kind of why you register copyrights and all of that. Obviously, it doesn't. Owning a copyright doesn't prevent a counterclaim. Someone might say that, oh no, I own this, and they can do a lawsuit. You guys can check out The Third Eye, which was a book which a lady wrote, and she claimed that The Matrix was based off of that. So even if there was a lawsuit, she claimed that the trademark was technically, the copyright was technically hers. So yeah. It doesn't prevent anything, but it helps. Obviously, it helps. It can help a lot of the hassle because you have a demonstrative proof of it. But it doesn't. When it comes to the law, you can't really entirely prevent lawsuits. Money, big deal when it comes to business. Pay for approved work rather than hours. I no longer pay for the time that it takes for an artist to do work on an asset. Because you don't know. It's not even that the artist could fake the number of hours worked, but if they estimate 3 hours and it takes 8, well, that is 8 hours I have to pay. That greatly increases my fees, and it's tough to plan around. So I don't pay for work for hours anymore. I pay for approved work. We approve a pricing per asset, and that's how I roll. I don't pay in advance either. I say you work for this amount of money, and after this amount, I will pay you. And I do pay diligently. Once I receive an invoice, and once everything is approved, I receive an invoice. I always pay within 24 hours. I do not like to wait for money. No one does, and I don't like to have lingering debts. So always pay diligently. It creates a great rapport between you and your contractor, and obviously it builds your credibility. On the same note, I never hire someone for a job if I don't have the money. I only ask for work for which I do have the money. It happened once, and I told the guy in advance. We had been working for a while. I told him in advance, I won't be able to pay you for upcoming assets you produce until in about a month in the future. And he was understanding. It worked out, but I made him understand that. And if he had refused to work, well, that would have been fine as well. That is just, no one likes to deal with money issues. So, be respectful of others the way you would want others to be respectful towards you. And now we come to this slide. This slide, which has changed over the years. All right. So, I had a huge issue in my first year of making Arrowlight Core. I hired a firm to do a lot of work, like a lot of work. This was the first time I was hiring people. I hired them to make characters and to make sprite work and to make backgrounds. And this was my first time. I paid in advance because I know that's just the thing to do. I paid in advance of $8,000, and they delivered crap. And forgive my language, but it was terrible. They did terrible work. It took a long time. They didn't have the resources, it just was a terrible situation for everyone. There was after a few months, I discovered that there was plagiarism. You can see the example with the tree on the side, the anvil. Terrible assets. On the left, you have Liana, their model, which looks absolutely dreadful. On the right is the one that I have in the game, so that gives an example. Obviously, the pipe bottom left, on the left is the version in Arrowlight Core. On the right is what they offered. So it's like a cheap gradient, no details, no nothing. So yeah, that is kind of why I never pay in advance anymore. Because in the beginning, I lost $8,000 to a firm. And if you look Arrowlight Core and just, I guess, complaint or something, you will find the whole story there. I'm not going to name the firm here, but I do name them elsewhere on the internet. So that's quite a story if you guys want to check it out. And obviously I fired them, and yeah, I never got to get back that money because they were in another country, and I tried to do a lawsuit, and in the end I was seeing myself just sink more money into this issue than I was going to get back. So I just cut my losses and moved on, and it sucks. And yeah, no one wants to go through that, but it happens sometimes. And I guess if it didn't give me any good work, at the very least, it gave me an anecdote that I can share with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this $8,000 anecdote, which came out of my pocket. Yeah, be communicative, of course, with your artists. Prioritize them over yourself. I make sure as much as I can. When I get home from work, I always try to answer emails. I spend complete evenings, 4 or 5 hours, answering emails from people. And it does mean that my own work suffers, programming suffers, the things that map making, making the game in general. But if I make a delay, then a lot of people suffer for it. So be communicative, prioritize them, and yeah, you're gonna win out in the long run. Even like sometimes you just want to work on your game and get lost into it, but it's really better for the game if you give them your attention first. It's your job to keep in touch as the producer. So sometimes I might have an artist who gets distracted and I lose contact for them for a week or so. So I always contact them then and say, hey, how are things going? Is there a delay? Try to understand. You don't have to yell after them. You don't have to be mean. Be understanding. But yeah, you need to keep in touch with them and bring them back to your project, because at least on a game like Arrowlight Core, which has so many artists, so much work to be done, every minute counts. So got to make sure you're not left behind, left forgotten. Your work affects the artist's work. So yeah, that's just whenever I have to have assets done, I try to find as many resources that I can to show them what I'm looking for. I tend to have a very specific vision for things. You have to when you're one guy on a project. So I try to give them as many resources as I can, examples, visual examples, descriptions, and when I receive work from them, I often I try to include it immediately in the game so I can see it in context, and if it doesn't work, I can bring screenshot. Look, it doesn't work because this doesn't connect with this. It's all really useful for them, and it takes a bit more time on your side, but again, it's all about prioritizing the artist, especially since if you're like me, you don't get to pay them as much as you wish you could. So giving them your attention that way really goes a long way. Just having a great work relationship, as devoid of frustrations as you can, really goes a long way. Is really important. And yeah, be descriptive. Other reference material. Just provide them with everything that they need, and make sure that they understand what they're supposed to do, what you're looking for. I always ask for sketches. Artists tend to want to rush into things and I will make this great image and it's great, but I have found myself telling them that is not what I was looking for. This doesn't work because the angle doesn't work, or in context, because of the specific context, it doesn't work. So ask for sketches and just a quick sketch to make sure, okay, this will have this type of angle and it'll work like this, and you really save yourself a lot of hassle in those cases. And they as well save themselves a lot of hassle, so everyone's a winner. Oh, that is not great. Okay, so we're hitting, well, okay, let's rush through the last 5 minutes. What if someone isn't doing the job? Fire them. Yes, of course, it's terrible, but you have to be reasonable. The project is suffering, and managing people does involve a lot of management on your side, so you have to, it's a reality. Fire people if you have to. Be nice about it, but you don't want it to suffer because someone else's work is not correct. No Man is an Island. Yeah, you have to deal with people to make a great game. It's just a reality. Like I said, you need to hire people. You have to network it with other devs, game journalists. To spread the word, you can do it on your own, but if you have passionate people working for you and you engage with people, that really helps you to just spread the word across the landscape of your game. There are a lot of games coming out, so the more you contact people, the more you get the word out. It really helps for those purposes. The value of engagement, yeah, like I said, you need to engage with people as well. That means get to know people. Don't just go out there and ask for something and disappear. A lot of devs do that. They just post an ad and then disappear, and they don't engage. They don't try to get to know people. And the problem with that is that people won't care about you if you don't care about them. So it's a give-give kind of situation, and it takes time to get to know people. You really need to invest in it. But again, you're playing the long game. It's all about playing the long game, even beyond this project. I will have future projects, future games, and I want to know that I can deal with people on those future games, and they can also come to me if they have stuff that they need. So everyone wins in that situation. Everyone has a project. So yeah, your project is super important to you, but everyone has a project. Everyone wants their thing to succeed, and you have to be understanding of that. It's just a reality of the situation. You're not special. I'm not special. No one is special. And when you approach things that way, understanding that we're all equal in some way, I think everyone's a winner as well. I'm going to have to skip PAX East, but hey, you know what? I went to PAX East. It was awesome. I got to know people. I got to meet people, and it was highly profitable. So that was awesome. If you can, go to conventions, go meet journalists, go meet people of the industry. And thank you. Yeah, sorry for rushing the end. I thought I was approaching time, but yeah, in closing, that's about it. Like, just if there's one thing I want to leave you guys with, it's plan ahead, think for the future. When I started the game, I started with a huge asset list, and it wasn't complete, but I knew a lot of the things that I would need. So I knew the types of people that I needed to hire, the artists and the animators and the composers. I found resources. I found good descriptions for what I was looking for, and beyond that, again, Aralite Core will hopefully be released this October, and once that is complete, I will still have some extra development to do. But beyond that, I will work on other games. I will work on some mobile games and some other stuff. And once that happens, the people I've worked with on Aralite Core, I can still work with them on future projects, and they will want to work with me, hopefully, because I still have a good rapport with them. It's super important. This is, there are a lot of indie devs, but it's a overall kind of small community. If you start having a bad reputation, it will precede you. And if you have a good reputation, then people will want to work with you and will have references. And yeah, it's so important. It'll save you a lot of hassle. Laying a great groundwork in the early times will save you a lot of hassle in the end. So that was my panel. Thank you very much for everyone who was there. Yes. And I will remain in the chat room for those who want to ask questions. But you can you have my contact information on there. Facebook, Twitter, and I stream on Twitch. And side note, for every dev out there, if you're not streaming your game development on Twitch, do so. It is a great way to get in contact with people, with other devs. Devs roam around and want to see game dev, so you can find people that way. And yeah, if you guys want to ask questions, I stream 3 times a week. Next time is next Tuesday, so you guys can check it out then. And I hope you will, and I hope I wish you all, everyone out of you, I wish you all a lot of success in your projects, and I wish you all to not lose $8,000 to a contracting firm, because that sucks. That is the worst. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, that was a great talk, and we were having some technical problems, so it's totally fine that we ran a little over, and I think everybody was really interested anyway, so it all worked out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Excuse while the cameras get shifted around. We thank you again, Kevin.
Pronounce it correctly this time.
Giguere. Giguere. Okay, good. Again, Dragon Slumber. Check him out. Ask questions. Thank you so much again. And I'm going to kick you out of the Skype chat.
Oh no! Bye guys.
Have a good one.